All right. So the question is, how do you create this? What are we actually looking at? First, I'm going to show you something. If I select this and I change the color, notice that every time I change the color, um, the reflection remains the same. So that is the goal that you want from your reflections. That's what you want to create anytime you're creating a reflection. And also notice that the word reflect changes color as well. These are accomplished because of blend modes. Blend modes are um, basically something that we covered already briefly when we were talking about creating a shadow. When we created the shadow in the last challenge, what we did was put it on multiply so that, well, this one actually has multiply on it. So this reflection actually has the multiply blend mode right here. While this does not, this is actually the color white. And the only reason it looks like this is because the blend mode that I put on it was overlay. So if I change this to multiply, it's going to disappear. Why? Because with that particular blend mode, it amplifies dark colors and makes light colors disappear. So, not sure any better way to explain it than that. So, overlay is typically what I use for lighter colors when I want to have a cool effect. But multiply and darken is what I use. Mainly multiply is what I use for darker colors. Alright, so let's do this from scratch. Let's see how we created this. Alright, so I'm going to create a new artboard. And as you see right here in my layers panel, I already have a bottom layer, and I'm not going to go through the whole process and act like you don't know how to create a shape. So I'm just going to jump in here and I'm going to paste the previous shape that I had into my new artboard. Then I'm just going to lock that layer. Now I'm going to actually type, let's make sure I'm in the correct layer. I'm in my top layer now. And I'm going to go ahead and create a reflection. But first, I have to type my name. So I type my name, and just for kicks, this time I'm going to use a color. And I'm going to also change the tracking on this just so it can be up to my personal standards. Alright, so now I have my name. Now it's time to reflect it. Now the thing about reflecting something, first I want to copy this and I want to paste it in place. Now that it's been pasted in place, notice there's two of them. I'm going to um, go to transform, reflect, and I'm going to make sure my reflection is horizontal. If I select it vertical, then it's going to do that, and I don't want that, so I'll make sure it says horizontal. Now, once I've done that, I'm going to press the down arrow just a little bit, mainly because that little gap right here makes that reflection all the more powerful, in my opinion, and more realistic as well. So I'm going to keep that gap right there. That'll work. So now I'm going to apply a, um, a gradient to my text. So what I don't want to do um, is use appearance to apply my gradient. Um, Mainly because you can run into a lot of issues that way. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to create a fill, and I'm going to change that fill into a gradient, right? So the main idea in doing this and changing the gradient is making the white actually transparent. And in this case, since my text is yellow, instead of making it black like it was before, because my text is black, I'm going to change my black to yellow. So let me go to my gradient panel, and I'm going to pick out the same yellow that I'm using here, and I'm going to change my white. Now this is the key. I'm going to change my white from 100% opacity to 0% opacity, and I can only change it within here. Now, did you notice what happened? Right here, even though it should be transparent, I still have yellow. Why is that? Because when I'm using appearance, there's always that fill layer that you can't see that I started off with. So let's say I select this one. Notice I have a yellow fill, but you don't see it here. The only reason we see, or only reason we're able to come up here and create a gradient is because it's a layer on top of the original text. So right now I have a gradient on top of my original color, which is yellow. So you know what I see when it's transparent? More yellow. So that's not going to work. So what we're going to do is delete that. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to delete the whole thing. I'm going to delete this fill, and now the text is back to normal. And I'm just going to, I can do one or two things. I could actually use a clipping mask like we did with the image in text, and I can actually apply this gradient to this clipping mask. And the reason I would do the clipping mask is because if you do the clipping mask, you still have control over this text. If I wanted to change the font, then I can go back and change the font. That's why the clipping mask would be the best option in this case. But if I did not, if I knew everything was okay and I wasn't going to have to change the font, then I can select this text and go to type and select create outlines. So that's type at the top of your screen. You might not be able to see it, but once you select type, you'll go to create outlines. Or if you right click, you can select create outlines. That's another way to do it. If you did it that way, let me show you what would happen. Create outlines, and then I can select that text. I'm at that gradient. Now that I have that gradient selected, I can actually use my gradient tool to create my reflection the way I want it. That is a way. That's not the way that I prefer. And I say the way that I prefer is because I'm specifically talking about me. So I'm showing you this way, not because I want you to do it this way, but I want you to know this way. You don't have to do it this way, but you do need to know it because it may come up again, but it may not come up again. I don't know. So I'm going to select both of those, press Command 7 for my clipping mask, and notice I'm getting the same results. It's just now I can go back and change my font if I wanted to, or I can change what the text says altogether. And let's do this. Alright, so I'm kind of liking that, and it's a similar feel. Alright, so now if I went and changed my background, oh, let's do one thing. Since I have a lighter color, I can actually, instead of using multiply, which it's not going to make it show up that well, I can use soft light or overlay or hard light. Actually, I kind of like just normal when I have colors because it's showing up pretty good. I don't have to do that. Alright, anyway, let's change the background color and see if it passes the test. Select this, and I'm going to change it to orange, and it passes the test. even if I make it dark, it still passes the test. Now, if I made it that dark, there would be some changes that I would like to make. I would kind of make this transition a little bit smoother. And I probably would bring this up higher. Let me just use this tool all together again. And sometimes it's best to come in and do it as if it was extreme and then go back to what you had before. So let's say I have this and now I go back to the red. See, now the red even looks better because I had it on an extreme and I adjusted it there. Anyway, sometimes it might, it might just depend on whatever color you choose. But that's pretty much it. The last thing I want to show you is this reflect thing, which I already showed you that kind of all I did was put the blend mode on it. So if I took the blend mode off, it would just be white text that says reflect. But all I have to do is change the blend mode. And notice I didn't change the opacity, but I just changed the blend mode and it has that effect. Alright, so I hope this helps, which I know it does. So enjoy. I hope you enjoyed. Let's put it that way. And I will see you next time. Have a great day.